Hi everybody, this is Dan Stolbarger. Welcome to this week's Middle East Update. It is the 23rd of January and we're going to look back on what transpired this last week in Israel, in the Middle East. So just a reminder that this YouTube presentation has an accompanying PDF PowerPoint with pictures and usually much more than we have time for in this short YouTube. So make sure you grab that. It should be a link on the YouTube page, or you can go to our website at holygroundexplorations.com. So we always start off with what we call our news bites. So Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, with all the issues or demonstrations that are going on in Israel, somewhere between 80 and 100,000 people in the streets of Tel Aviv, demonstrating against the new government in terms of their judicial reforms. Of course, the U.S. is concerned with the pendulum swinging so far to the right in Israeli politics. Netanyahu met with U.S. National Secretary Advisor Jake Sullivan. This was just last Thursday, and basically said the judicial reforms that are under consideration by the Israeli government will be softened. Again, damage control. No one would have expected this amount. There's almost like, keep in mind, Netanyahu fights against a strong left-based media. He can do no right. And Lapid is not, the former prime minister, is just fueling the fires. And so Netanyahu is, in a sense, saying, calm down, calm down. And again, last week we reported that in light of these people that came out, 80,000 in the rain, Netanyahu's response was not necessarily a shrug of the shoulders, but he said, keep in mind, in the last elections, we had millions of people voting for our party's stance on judicial reform. So that's what's going on there in terms of demonstrations. Also, last Friday, Channel 14 News in Israel reported that Netanyahu's father, Ben Zion, his grave in Jerusalem was desecrated. A letter was found that basically said, quote, "Your son seems demented and weak. In his weakness, he's enabling a group of racists, fascists, homophobes, and serial criminals to drag the state of Israel into being a failed state." And Netanyahu responded by saying, shame on anyone that would defile a grave. And again, the impact that Ben Zion Netanyahu had on his son. I just finished a couple weeks ago the book Bibi, and highly recommend it. And in that, not only do you find Yanni, his brother, the Reitu and Hebi, the influence that Yanni had on his life, also his father. So I encourage you to take a look at that and echo the same words, shame on anyone that would desecrate a grave in this fashion. And lastly, for our news bites, reports out, polls that are out, Israelis' national pride remains stable. A higher percentage of young Israelis have now identified themselves as, are you ready for this? Right-wingers, according to the new Israeli Democracy Index. So once again, don't believe everything you read from either side in terms of media. Again, we're living in what I call an age of deceit, and it's important that you have places that you can find truth. Now, for our articles this week, a new chief of staff for the IDF, Major General Herzi Helvia was sworn in as the new Chief of Staff of the IDF. I love his comments. He said, in a time of transition from the destructive governments of change, he's promised to keep politics out of the IDF. He goes on to say, he sends a warning and basically states to those that are opposing Israel, quote, our enemies should know that we can do whatever we say we will do, and we are ready to do even much more than what we say. Let that one sort of sink in for a moment. And then this past week, war games in Israel, U.S., Israeli war games. This exercise, this is a combination. I think the drill is called Juniper Oaks. It includes live fire exercise, more than 140 aircraft, including B-52 bombers, F-35s, F-15s, and 16s, and 18s, and Apache helicopters, 12 naval vessels, and a rocket artillery system. Again, some believe this to be the largest ever held between two countries, these war games. And this exercise is no surprise, should be as no surprise, comes as the U.S. and its partners continue to impose new sanctions on Iran and beckoning diplomatic talks to return to the 2015 nuclear deal. But for its part, in the midst of seeing this show of force, the Iranians have decided to do military drills with the Syrians. And once again, the sabers are rattling, and we wonder what's going to transpire and take place soon. I'm not going to put a date on it, but soon I have the expectations if Netanyahu's government survives these turbulent times over the next few months, I do believe that there will be a strike from Israel to Iran. Some would ask, so what's the solution? Is there any silver linings? Is there any reason to be hopeful that there would ever be a reconciliation or a peace with Israel and the Palestinians? And scholars will argue the only way that that can take place is to be effective on the grassroots or the elementary school, junior high level. If that doesn't change, no solution. And so concern goes out because new PA, Palestinian Authority textbooks, show that study cards for 11th graders basically include the but statements accusing Jews of being in control of global events through financial power. 7th graders are instructed to describe Israeli soldiers as, quote, Satan's aides. A textbook chapter implores Muslims to liberate the Alaska Mosque or the Temple Mount. And children gathered to listen to a poem with the following lines: give me my rifle or an M14, an axe or a knife. And so once again, the outrage internationally of these textbooks is going unheard by the Palestinians, but do not expect any let up in terrorist activities until things like textbooks take out the violent radicalization of young people. This isn't going to go a long way to help in terms of Bibi's perception from the UN nor from the US, but one Knesset member of the Likud, Danny Danon, who was the former UN ambassador, has submitted a bill calling for Israeli annexation of the Jordan Valley. No doubt a move that would draw widespread condemnation by nations that consider Israeli settlements illegal under international law. And again, the proposed suggestion is for about 30% of the West Bank. It is a controversial issue and no doubt will get a lot of attention. Unfortunately, from even the partners from the Abrahamic Accords, no doubt. But again, we've talked about Bibi coming to power, and two of the major items that's driving him is one, of course, dealing with the nuclear Iran situation, but the second is to pave the way for the Saudis to join the Abrahamic Accords. So this article that comes out in the midst of all of this is the Saudis' preconditions. And basically, Saudi Arabia's foreign minister on Thursday said that the creation of a Palestinian state would be a precondition in establishing formal diplomatic relations with Israel. And again, nothing new there. Same, I don't want to just call it rhetoric, but the question has always been, are there any workarounds this? And we had the Trump plan that, again, has been just kind of swept off to the side. But it is a major hurdle for Bibi to try to deal with the Palestinians in regards to how do we pave the way for the Saudis to be a part of all of this. So that's it for this week. We're reminded in the scriptures to be praying for the peace of Jerusalem. As you know by now, Sharon and I and a group of about 20 are going to Israel in a couple weeks. While we're in Israel, our Middle East update will continue, but only as a PowerPoint. It'll be just as a PowerPoint. And while in Israel, I have found it too difficult to rely on the internet, etc., to put together YouTubes. But we will be reporting live from Israel. So again, and then we have another group coming after that, a work group that we call our Talmidim group. And we'll be doing 3 different work projects there. But if you're interested in going to Israel, please always connect to our website, Holy Ground Explorations. Usually when we're finished with the tour, we put up the next one. So check that out. We'd love to have you join us. So with that, God bless and shalom.